Strap on your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're about to go on a journey. It's First Contact Radio with Joshua Poet.
Thank you very much, Dirk. This is Josh Poet. You're listening to First Contact Radio. FirstContactRadio.com is the place you can go to get the links to all of the stories here. All right, yesterday gave you a good rundown, and I hope you used yesterday's show as a reference, a rundown of fake news, okay? A rundown of fake news. It is a real thing. It's been going on for roughly about 100 years, maybe even longer, but 100 years that we know of, going back to the Council on Foreign Relations. We are using techniques in America to fake people out with news stories that are being controlled, a media that is in the bag for the DNC. And really, when you get behind the scenes, it's not just the DNC, but it's those who have a globalist agenda. See, that's the big trick of it. The big trick is that there are two different opposing sides, and there are, Democrat and Republican. You got independents as well, but mainly the Democrats and the Republicans, and we're led to believe that these people fight with each other and that they have different agendas, but many of them don't. Many of them are on the same side, same agendas they're pushing. They just do it from their different perspectives. It's like the media. You know, when you watch the news, I always use the analogy that the media is like sheepdog. You got different kind of dogs, different colors, different barks, maybe even different sizes. And they all have their way on gathering together the sheep to herd them into the pen. But at the end of the day, they're all leading them to exactly the same pen. It's just that each one has to have a particular way to tell the stories for their audience. So the people who watch Fox, they're clueless of the fact that they are being led to the same place as the people who are watching MSNBC. Now, you do have people within some of these agencies that do try to stand up, do the right thing, present truthful information, but these people, they end up getting attacked, they end up getting doxxed, they end up getting threatened. Sometimes they even lose their jobs. So it makes it tougher and tougher. You can go back and find a show from years and years ago called Outfoxed, which talked about people. There was interviews with people who had left Fox and then talk about the way in which the station was operating and what have you. So I think people just have lost sight of how to pay attention to what's really going on, and therefore they don't know that they're being lied to. I mean, if you take that whole rundown of what was talked about yesterday, of all of these years that the media manipulation has been going on, most everybody alive today doesn't know anything about the media because it's all been manipulated. Most people, after 9/11, are really locked in because of all of the restrictions that were put in place after 9/11 to really lock down on the truthfulness. And so we don't really know what's going on. And unless you've had an opportunity to see and to explore and investigate, you're just completely clueless in the whole process. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of good people. But when you have bad information, the good people can't make the proper decisions that they need to make because everything's convoluted. But we're getting there. We are getting there slowly. I believe people are waking up. I believe that truths are being revealed, and I know that there's going to be more being revealed as time goes on. One of the problems we've been having, and that is being unfolded, is this huge problem with this sex cults here in the United States of America and throughout the world. Now, what grown human beings do with themselves is their own business. But when their activities become a bit nefarious, when they start engaging in practices that are illegal, now we're talking about something else. And that's case in point of what is going on with human trafficking. Got trafficking coming across the border. Children are coming across with people claiming to be their parents that aren't their parents. Got liberals and Democrats who are completely uninformed by the media that they are watching. They simply think parents and kids are being separated, and it's because Trump is mean, and that's why. But if these kids are being separated from the person who is the human trafficker, Well, then you've just done the best thing for that kid you could do. You've gotten that kid to a place of safety where maybe that kid wasn't safe before. That's exactly what's going on. Now, if this was something that was just occurring in 2019, then we could say, okay, easy problem to fix. But this is a problem going on a long time. How long? Well, we can open up the Bible and we can read about places like Canaan, Moab, and various other locations in the ancient biblical lands, and find that there was trafficking going on then. Trafficking, child sacrifice, human sacrifice, all to the deity that they worshipped at that time. Moloch was one of them. And this day and age, we have the Bilderberg group, which has gotten together to worship their big owl Moloch, the human sacrifice being. It's almost like the children that are killed in abortions. They're like sacrifices to Moloch, sacrifices to evil, and nothing more than that. They're blood sacrifices. Planned Parenthood was set up to get rid of blacks. There's no mincing words about that. That's exactly why they were set up. Margaret Sanger's own words. She wanted to exterminate blacks, but they couldn't come out right and say it, so they did it in a sly way. Put their institutions, put their agencies and clinics in places where there are a lot of blacks. Encourage them to go out and make babies, and then when they don't want the babies, they just come over and get rid of the babies. And now they've got a blood sacrifice that they're having, or they sell the body parts. We're hearing all about it. It's horrible stuff going on. Horrible, horrible, horrible things. But it's been going on for a while. One of these things we talked about and is taking place is with this sex cult, Nxivm. Nxivm. Today I've got a two-part coming to us from the Frank Report, Lost Necker Island Photos. Part 1, Richard Branson with Nxivm. Billionaire says he knew nothing about Raniere. Frank Report recently obtained a treasure trove of never-before-published pictures of the Nxivm retreat on Richard Branson's Necker Island in 2010. They feature a who's who of leading Nxivians. There was a conference that Nxivians allegedly made plans, as reported by John Tigray, on Saratoga and declined to expand their racketeering enterprise. They also conducted a Nxivm intensive and partied hardy. Nxivm leader Keith Allen Raniere did not attend this retreat. No one is suggesting that participants like Kristin, Kreuk, or especially the owner of the island, Richard Branson, had anything to do with the criminal elements of the Nxivm racketeering enterprise, but it's clear that Branson joined in at least some of the partying. Branson apparently endorsed Nxivm Raniere a year earlier in 2009 in connection with the visit of the Dalai Lama to endorse Raniere. Says the tools you have for compassionately dealing with complex ethical and global issues are not only unique, but extremely valuable. This, along with a program of coordinated, organized resources, makes for an innovative approach to transforming our society. I think your founding event will be extraordinary and potentially world-changing. Sir Richard Branson, founder, Virgin Group. The Branson said after the sex scandal erupted in 2007, he never heard of Raniere and thought that the Sarah Brofman had rented the island, but he knew nothing about Nxivm. The Sun and the New York Post reported the tycoon maintains he was not aware of any seminars, but believed it was booking for Sarah Brofman's friend and family owner only. A Virgin Management spokesman said Richard Branson never heard of Keith Raniere, has never met him, and there is absolutely no association between Sir Richard and the Nxivm Group or its leader. Here are some unpublished and a couple of previously published pictures of Richard Branson at Necker Island during the seminar paid for by Sarah Brofman. Here is the previous published pics. Okay, you get a number of pictures here. Here with Sarah. Okay, these are the characters. So here's a guy who's claiming that he doesn't know about this, yet here he is with the very people who were involved with it. Branson's involvement with Nxivm seems negligible. He rented out the island twice to Sarah Brofman in 2007 and 10. He was told the fee was around $250,000 each time for 5 days. He was there both times and joined in the party. In 2009, he seemed to have endorsed Nxivm and Raniere, but other than that, there seemed to be little or no contact with Richard Branson, Nxivm, or Raniere. Okay, so there's that. That's part 1. We get over to part 2. Says Kristin Kreuk on Nxivm Island, parties with Allison, Mack, and others. Okay, and let's see here. Goes on to say it was at this Frank report obtained a treasure trove. The feature Nixon's. It was at this conference that Nixon made plans by reported. It says Keith Allen Raniere did not attend. No one is suggesting that Kristin Kreuk or the owner of Branson had anything to do with the criminal elements. But one thing is clear: the former Nxivm poster girl for recruitment and Nxivm coach Kristin Kreuk did attend Nxivm Island Sorry. Okay, and here we have pictures of Allison Mack and Kristin Kreuk. And, well, I think all it takes is a logical thinking mind to look at this and say, okay, here's people that were involved with the sex cult. Here they are all gathered together on this island. But no, we're supposed to pretend and turn a blind eye. Well, Keith Raniere was found guilty on all charges. In September is going to be the time when he is going to be given his penalty. And we'll see what happens then. But I think along the way, we're going to hear of more arrests and more problems that are going to happen because ultimately this all connects together. We're going to see it connecting into Epstein. And we're going to find out that this rabbit hole is a lot deeper than most people think that it is. So how does this thing go on? How do people get into this mindset that this kind of activity is okay? I mean, you have to obviously have this mindset as a kid or implanted to you as a kid, and then you grow up thinking this is okay. The reason is because we have a society that is in decline in the way we go about our business. We don't pay attention to the little slippery slopes that happen along the way. Case in point, we have story time with drag queens who are dressing, in some cases, like demons. And then they're going and reading to little kids. We had heard during the Obama administration that, these drag queens, trannies, whatever they are, that they have the right to go into the bathroom where the little kids are, that they would never do anything wrong, that they're just people that like to dress differently. But then we hear crimes that they're committing, sexual perversions that they have. It's a slippery slope. We've seen pictures of drag queen with little kid laying on top of the drag queen at a story time. I believe this happened here somewhere in the States, maybe up in the San Francisco area. I don't recall. But the picture is out there, and it is contrary to what they say goes on at these type of events. Well, here's another one. Drag queen teaches kids to twerk at library story hour. Devon, England, a drag queen in the United Kingdom, was caught on camera teaching small children at a library story hour how to perform the sexually suggestive dance move called twerking. Mama G is a cross-dressing man and a drag artist who has appeared at libraries, theaters, bookshops, and cafes all over the UK. According to Petite Pantos Theatre Company, Devon Libraries promoted the story hour events at North Devon and is sharing tales that celebrate being who you are and loving who you want. Video recently emerged of one of those drag queen story events showing Mama G explaining and demonstrating before an audience of children how to twerk. All you need to do is just stand there with your feet sort of shoulder width apart like so, and then crouch down in a sort of position so your bumps sticking out. Mama G said, briefly looking back to ask someone off camera if they're taking this all in. And then you just move your bum up and down like that, and that's twerking. Numerous parents and other concerned citizens have spoken out against the performance. Some say wholly inappropriate for children, one said. What on earth were you thinking, asked another. On what planet do you think this sexualized woman-faced act is appropriate for young children? Okay, again, it's a slippery slope. Slippery slope, and this is why bad things happen, because parents, I'm going to point the finger at parents have turned a blind eye to what's going on. The political correctness in our society has tied parents' hands behind their back so they're afraid to say something because their kids or maybe they might get ostracized. In the meantime, bad things are happening. Kids are being groomed. And they're being taught that this sort of behavior is okay, and it's just the next step along the way where we see abuse of kids that occurs. It's all connected, and unless we nip this in the butt, we're going to find out that there's going to be more problems, because these things start off small and then they grow and they grow and they get worse. Okay, so there you have it. That's a couple of stories there to get you started. I'm going to throw things over to Dirk. He's going to tell you a little bit about the shooting from his perspective. Dirk, over to you.
And it was anybody at above us that passed us like 30 seconds ago. Negative. The UFO. Yeah.
Greetings, people of Earth. This is your old pal, Dirk Bradshaw. So I've been gone away for a while, and I guess all the news is about these shootings, and it's tragic. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to come back on the air. I always promised that I would come back whenever I had something serious to talk about. So, let's talk about it. I keep hearing that video games are to blame for people shooting up a Walmart, or a mosque, or a church, or a school. Or is it white supremacy on a divisive website to blame? No, wait, it's mental illness. Or better yet, we are nearing an election. I got it. Let's blame Trump or the Democrats. But none of these are the real reason young men are picking up assault rifles and shooting innocent people. Video games. Can you imagine how many 20-year-old men are sitting in their childhood bedroom, in their parents' house, right now, playing a shoot-'em-up game? I don't know, because the number would be too astronomically high for me to count to. So how many of those astronomical numbers of boys went on a rampage today, or tomorrow, this year, or how about in the past 40 years? Probably, I don't know, 0.0000000. You get my point. The numbers do not add up to a legitimate reason to blame violent video games. I mean, if it were video games, we would probably be seeing about maybe 150 shootings like this a day. And the same goes for 8chan and their 35,000 unique visitors per day. The numbers, again, are too high to use as a legitimate measure. Actually, the numbers are too high for registered gun users as well, when the vast majority of them will not use the guns in any kind of violent act. In fact, statistics show most gun users statistically don't even use the guns they purchase. That's right, not even at the shooting range. But won't limiting or making guns illegal stop the violence? Well, no, again, not true. The biggest mass killing in the United States was 9/11, and that was done with a pair of box cutters. Then in theory, we should make box cutters illegal, as they were the implement of death for over 2,996 people. Or how about fertilizer? Fertilizer should be illegal, as it was the weapon of choice for Timothy McVeigh, who killed 168 people. Now, I'm not saying that guns are not a factor in murder. They are, of course. But they are not to blame for this either. So who is to blame? Who can we point a finger for all of life's woes? Because we need someone to blame, right? Well, there is someone to blame, and you're not going to like it. Why? Because it doesn't fit into anyone's agenda. The person to blame is the person who committed the crime, the guy who pulled the trigger. Sure, there are circumstances, but you will find those circumstances are irrelevant, as there are circumstances in everyone's life. We all have something that drives us to the edge, but somehow, some way, we always step back. And that's the only difference here. These people did not step it back. It takes courage to step back from adversity, and utter cowardness to give into it. And that's what these people are. They're not mentally ill. They are cowards, too afraid to do the self-introspection we all do when faced with life's challenges. And instead, they blame others for their downfalls. And isn't that the trap? The catch-22, the media, the politicians, they want us to blame something or someone when that is what caused this mess in the first place. I'm Dirk Bradshaw. We'll talk again the next time I have something to say.
All right, Dirk, great report, great report. Yeah, it's not a popular thing that people want to hear to blame the person that pulled the trigger of the gun. Because as far as I'm aware, a gun isn't going to shoot itself. Okay, you need somebody to pull the trigger. And with the amount of guns in the country, obviously there are a lot of people that have a lot of restraint. We just hear about these wacko situations from time to time. And then you have to start wondering what is the truth and what isn't. I mean, Beto O'Rourke's out there making a big noise, but yet he was also the guy who was laughing when he was talking about this. Why was Beto laughing about the shooting? It's because Beto's an asshole. That's why. Beto doesn't care about America. Beto doesn't care anything about the values of America. Beto only cares about Beto and how he could continue to commit treason against our country and participate in this coup that's going on. Beto's 15 minutes of fame is coming to a close, and there is a jail cell waiting for him. We'll see how funny he thinks it is then, but I know when he's sitting in a jail cell, I know I'm going to think it's pretty funny, and I think there's going to be a lot of Americans that are going to feel exactly the same way. Now, with all of the insanity that's going on in the world, and all of this Trump derangement syndrome that's going on, liberals are doing something quite unthinkable. They're doing the same things that were being done, that the Nazis were doing in Nazi Germany when they were expressing their hatred to the Jews. They're wanting to turn people in. The process they're using is called doxing. Doxing is where you go ahead and you put a person here. Let me give you the actual definition off of Wikipedia here. Doxing, from docs, abbreviation of documents, or doxing, is the internet-based practice of researching and broadcasting private or identifying information, especially anything personally identifying about an individual or an organization. The methods employed to acquire this information include searching publicly available databases, social media websites, hacking, social engineering is closely related to internet vigilantism, or hacktivism. Doxing may be carried out for various reasons, etc., etc. But in these cases, they're being carried out in order to harm others, because this is not information that is readily available. This is information that is being put out so that someone will get harassed. That is the whole purpose of this. Okay? The guys who are doing this, Castro, who did it the other day, well, he doesn't love our country. His brother doesn't love our country. And he went and he intentionally put this information out. When he was questioned about it by a guy from MSNBC of all places, when he was questioned about this and he said, these people are going to get harassed, he acted like, well, that was not my intent. Really? So obviously he didn't have the foresight to be able to think from here to there to understand how his actions were going to have consequences. That kind of person is a danger to society, because he may do anything to get his own way. Here we have a liberal website, Newsweek, joins far-left activist doxes Tucker Carlson's advertisers. This is a trend that's going on. We're just going to start doxing people. This is pure fascist maneuvers. Okay, the very people who are out there saying that Trump supporters are fascist are behaving in every way, shape, and form the way the fascists used to behave. If you don't agree with us, we're going to beat you up. If you don't agree with us, we're going to put your name public so other people can beat you up and harass you. If you don't agree with us, then you're racist. If you don't agree with us, we're going to strong arm you into our beliefs. On and on and on and on and on is what is going on, and it's absolutely ludicrous. Are there any laws against doxing? Well, this one says yes, doxing is illegal. It is illegal, according to this. It says Why doxing is always illegal. There's a link here, and in the excerpt from this, doxing is always illegal, whether it's done against a federal employee, a state employee, or a regular person. There are federal and state laws that specifically address doxing government employees. With regular citizens, doxing falls under various state criminal laws such as stalking, cyber stalking, harassment, threats, and other such laws depending upon the state. Depending upon the state. Here we have the legal activity of doxing excerpt. Due to new federal laws that apply to internet cyberstalking, the broader points now apply in multiple internet forums and social media sites. We have an article here, or not an article, but this is from congress.gov, HR 3067, Online Safety Modernization Act of 2017, in which it addresses such issues. It says the bill authorizes the FBI to hire law enforcement officials to investigate and assist in the prosecution of cyber crimes against individuals. That would be the doxing. I don't know what the extent of this is, how it has been implemented, if it has or not, but it's certainly something we need to take a look at. We don't want to just be giving out people's info. That's wrong. Wrong, wrong, and even more wrong. It's bad behavior that we shouldn't be practicing. But we have a part of society that has completely lost their minds. They've completely lost all sight of reality, and their only effort now is to destroy. To destroy. Satan is alive and well with members of the Democratic Party and with the liberal. You can look into their eyes and you can see the deadness in their eyes and the deadness in their souls. It's an ugly, ugly thing that is going on. Ugly thing. Couple quick UFO stories. What blocked out the sun? NASA didn't talk about it because it was caused by a UFO. According to UFO sighting news, is that something big just blocked out the sun today and no one even seemed to notice it. Images were found on the SDO NASA site that observes the sun through different filters. Put them together and you can see in real time as it happened. The reason nobody noticed is that it wasn't visible on Earth, but was actually only visible from the location of the SOHO NASA satellites. So the real question is, did a UFO pass between the satellite and the sun causing this? Wherever it is was huge. You can go to this link here and you can actually see the images as they occur. And yes, it is kind of weird. Kind of weird indeed. Here's another one. Glowing UFOs fly over Huntington Beach, California, maybe from underwater bases. Witnesses caught a fleet of bright objects over Huntington Beach 2 days ago. The objects were glowing orbs, but there was not a single orb that seemed to have been metallic and not glowing. The eyewitness said they noticed the objects as they began to rise higher and higher to the atmosphere and out of sight. It's very possible these UFOs were exploring under the ocean of off California, decided to end their mission and return to their own planet or space station. There is a well-known alien base off of Malibu, California. These UFOs may have come from there. So, again, end times, we expect to be seeing these type of activities all around us, and certainly they are happening as they have been. So what we have to do is we have to look at these situations, the evil that's in the world that's going on, and we still have to be positive and know that even though the evil is there, we can still thrive. We still exist by understanding that the power of God will allow us to withstand all of that evil. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pasture. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So there you have it, my friends. We have our ways to protect ourselves. Those are the words of God, the words from Scripture. We put on the armor of God. We remember that we have this light and protection around us, and we can walk through the valley of the darkness is here. We cannot be afraid because this evil is pouring out. But just as much as evil is pouring out, there are people putting out good vibes as well. We just got to keep that happening. Trust God, my friends. All will be well. I'll be back tomorrow. Till then, God bless. Peace. I'm out of here.